basketball game on right now? Or maybe there is, I don't know. So hopefully then you recorded it for later. Don't give away the score. I'm Barb Hardington, and we have a lot in store for you today. We're going to have 4 conservation conversations this year, and as I said, this is the first one. Our theme this year is the value of water, which, as you know, is important both on the local and national level. Before I introduce the speaker, I want to give you a brief background on Protect Geauga Parks for those of you who may be new to the issues. Protect Geauga Parks was formed casually in 2014 and officially in 2015 in response to changes in leadership in the Geauga Park District that quickly impacted changes in policy and practice at the parks. Protect Geauga Parks is a nonprofit 501c4 organization. We're a conservation organization, and we're dedicated to public education and advocacy. Our conservation conversations allow us to learn why conservation is important. We can't advocate for it in a very good way if we don't understand what it is we need to protect and how to do it. Our advocacy work is to then help make that happen. In some of our advocacy work you're familiar with, we do have an active petition over on the table. We have delivered petitions to change the probate judge in Geauga County that we've delivered to the state of Ohio. And more about that later. But right now I want to focus on some of our education issues. Our mission is to promote, support, and actively campaign for the conservation, preservation, and protection of nature as the primary mission of our parks. Our vision is that we envision a thriving county park system dedicated to its founding mission to preserve, conserve, and protect our natural resources. A park system which connects people to the natural world through excellent educational programs and through access of all people to natural areas, and through example as a bastion of conservation. We ask that the following 4 standards, we call them the common sense standards, be used by the park board and the park director in any decisions that they make. And these standards I'm going to just summarize for you. Number 1, is the use compatible with the primary mission to preserve, conserve, and protect natural resources? 2, is the use, facility, or project fiscally responsible? 3, is the use necessary? And 4, and maybe the most important, has the decision-making process been transparent? Our parks are under threat, and with the support of all of you here today, and those who follow us on the website, Facebook, and email list, and those of you who have bravely attended the park board meetings and events, we have stayed present in the local median plain dealer for a year and a half, and that's very long. We recently, as I said, took petitions to the entire legislature for the state of Ohio. We are a nonpartisan group, and we have, though, been referred to as one of the most important political forces in Geauga County. So we do pat ourselves on the back for that. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the other trustees who are here today. Ed and Sandy Buckles over by the signer. And while I introduce, I'll give also just a little push for some of the things we're trying to accomplish today. They're standing by sign-in sheets where you can sign in to volunteer for a number of things. So we do appreciate anybody who's able to get involved by helping us out by going to that table afterwards. We have Ron Kimmick in the back. Ron is the treasurer, and he will gladly take your money in exchange for yard signs, t-shirts, greeting cards, etc. We have Frank Wirtz at the camera. Kathleen in the back by the window, Kathleen Webb. John Augustine, who is videotaping. Kathy Henrity over to my right. Catherine Malmquist, who is, I think, sitting back there. Who am I pointing to? Yourself. Me? Well, wait. We have Dave Hardington, who is part of myself. He is more commonly seen in the Odie costume, so I'm outing him today. And I'm Barb Hardington. So we have a few others who aren't here today. Did I get everybody who's here, who's on the trustees? I think so. I want to just make one more push to say that we would ask you to continue to support us by becoming a member if you can do that. If you are already a member, the good thing to know is that our membership year begins April 17th, which happens to be the judge's birthday. And so as a birthday gift, if you would like to renew your membership, we'd appreciate that, or as I said, you could join today. And that's over at the table where Ron and Gail and Jim are working in the back. Some upcoming events that we're having, we will have a shelter sound off on March 29th where we can talk about some current issues that are going on, more of our advocacy work. That's March 29th. It will be in the evening at Froring Meadow, and do we know what time?
2 o'clock.
No, for the shelter sound off. It's a weekday evening?
We have the shelter from 4:30 till 8, so.
Okay, so sometime in the evening, we'll send out the exact time on that. We have a square dance on April 16th, so that will be fun. It's called Dancing with Coyotes. You can also, on the Odie theme, you can march with Odie in the Maple Festival Parade, April 22nd and 23rd at 3 o'clock. And we have a Buckles Challenge that Sandy or Ed will be talking to you about to help raise some money. And I think that's it. I don't want to take any more of your time, so enjoy the program. Stop and talk to us afterwards. Ed's going to be talking afterwards a little bit about some of our issues, and then we can stay until the room closes to talk more casually about, again, some of our current issues. So Kathy is going to talk for a second and introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Barb. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. I'm up here to introduce Ray, but first I wanted to say that this year, as Barb said, Protect Geauga Parks Conservation Conversations are going to be focused on water. Water links us all. Clean water is crucial to our survival, and wetlands are crucial to clean water. In Geauga County, we're very lucky to have the highest density of large intact wetlands in the state of Ohio. This is especially important because Ohio has lost over 90% of its historic wetlands. They've been drained, developed, etc. That makes Ohio number 2 out of 50 of the states in wetland loss. So that's pretty extreme. Wetland restoration and constructed wetlands are very, very important, vital projects that need to be done. We need to promote that great work whenever possible. Amazingly, though, here in Geauga County, we have the rare and important opportunity to save existing wetlands, and we can do that through land preservation. Preservation of intact wetlands is the most effective and cost-effective way to protect clean water. It also sequesters carbon and provides diverse habitat for wildlife. And preservation can be done for a fraction of the cost of restoration, so we have an amazing opportunity here. The first step is that we, the general public, need to value wetlands. And in order to do that, we've got Ray Stewart here from the Ohio Wetland Association of Ohio. He is the president of Ohio Wetland Association, OWA, which is an all-volunteer, member-supported conservation organization. Ray's a retired public school science teacher. He's Director of Communications and Outreach Officer for the Ohio Wetlands Association. Ray has a bachelor's in botany from Kent State, a master's from Ohio University in Latin American Studies, and he completed a Master of Arts in Teaching through the Global Field Program at Miami University. Ray has been a tireless advocate for wetlands and clean water for many years. Please help me welcome Ray as he explains how wetlands will save the world.
That was a nice introduction. If you can introduce me anytime. That was pretty good. I might dance around up here so I don't want to trip. Thanks for inviting me. This is a real honor to be here. I'm aware of the issues in Geauga County, even though I live in Lorain County. It's quite a trek. This is serious, and it is very important work that you are doing, and Geauga parks do need to be saved and protected and need to get put back on the right track. So if what I'm doing helps a little bit, I'm very happy to do that. Since I come into this room, I have talked to several people who have mentioned my predecessor, so I think it might do well to speak to that first. Some of you know John Katko, who is the founder of Friends of Wetlands. That goes back, he and I go back to high school together. We were great friends. He founded Friends of Wetlands in 1991, 25 years ago. I was one of the founding members and helped ever since. John worked incredibly hard for 20 years with Friends of Wetlands and became well known around the region for the work that he did. He was quite an articulate spokesperson for wetlands. But fortunately for him, he happened upon a party at friends of his, a graduate from Oberlin College invited him to a party, and another graduate from Oberlin College was there that happened to be his college sweetheart. Well, it didn't take very long before he moved to California and married her, and forgot all about wetlands in Ohio at the time. And good for him. Everybody was just very happy for him, but we were also concerned about what would happen to wetland advocacy in the state. So I'm the guy who called the meeting and said, what are we going to do now? And they said, well, Ray, you're going to take over for John. Since you called the meeting, and I guess that was appropriate because I was very excited to do more for wetlands, and I worked very close with John for so many years. It just seemed like the thing to do. And then I was able to retire and do this virtually full-time as a volunteer. In the process, we changed our name, we defined our geography, formed a board of directors, became an official nonprofit 501c3, and have done things differently than what John would have done, but I think we're making an impact, we're having an influence, and we are able to work for conservation for wetlands. So things are going well, and just the fact that I get invited to places to speak, I think speaks to that we're getting the word out. So now is the time to see how all of this effort, 25 years worth of experience, is going to save the world. When I first talked to Kathy about doing this, I said, oh, well, I can talk about the benefits of wetlands, because I got the poster over there that says wetland benefits. I can talk about that. And I thought about that for about 2 minutes, and about as soon as she hung up, I said, that doesn't sound very interesting. So I said, there's more than just benefits. I mean, it's not like something that a check in the mail, like a benefit check that you would get, not like a retirement check or something like that. It's really much more important than that. So wetlands will save the world, and we can all do something about it, whether it is something small, like installing your own little wetland garden, also known as rain garden. If it's, 3 square feet at the corner of your property that is a little wetland, that can help. Or if it's 3 million acres in what was once the Great Black Swamp of northwest Ohio, that would make a big difference. At any scale, improving the wetland coverage that we have, what we can protect and what we can restore, will make a big difference towards really saving the world. It'll make a big difference in our lives and the lives of people to come. So, as you might imagine, I talk to people about environmental issues a lot, not just about wetlands. And you hear things and you see things, and it's in the news, and it's really very depressing. And so I'm here to drive that point home, and I hope nobody starts crying. But I really feel that I need to mention this, and all right, get your hankies ready now, I suppose. But there's a smattering of environmental issues that keep coming up, and people will talk about it, and then say, there's nothing we can do. We're lost. We're doomed. What can we do? And nobody's listening. Nobody wants to change anything. We're beating our head against the wall. So, our planet is becoming less hospitable. It's harder to live on this planet. We've changed everything. There's very few natural areas that are untouched, that are left. And as it says here, the human population is skyrocketing. The stresses on this planet are enormous, and they're not going away anytime soon. 7 billion people, I think, is really unsustainable. I don't think we can do this generation after generation. Certainly we can't continue to increase the population at the rate that we have been for the last few hundred years. Water is becoming more stressed, more scarce. There's something like 1 billion people that do not have access to clean water, ever. They don't have clean water to drink or to bathe in. It's tough out there. We're pretty lucky around here. We've got good water, fortunately, for now. Biodiversity is collapsing. We're talking about the 6th great extinction on this planet. Over 4 billion years on this planet, there's been 5. We're causing the 6th one. The geologists are beginning to call this the Homocene, the age of man, because we're moving into an era where the planet is totally altered by human beings. It's a whole new ecosystem. It's changing so fast that life forms can't keep up with it. Extinction rate is skyrocketing. Sorry. It is pretty sad. I'll try to calm down here a little bit. So climate change is one of the big issues you hear about. I know I'm going to talk about wetlands, don't worry about it, but I got to work through this first because it's all going to tie together. The argument is over. Climate change is happening. It is human-induced. Now, we may not notice it here in Ohio. If you just look at what's happening in Ohio, you may not be convinced that there is climate change. It's pretty subtle for us here. So we're not seeing uniformly warmer temperatures winter and summer year after year. Last 2 winters were pretty rough. People are saying, there's no climate change. It's been colder than ever. Well, yeah, well, at the same time that it's colder than ever here, they had to make snow for the Olympics halfway around the world because it wasn't snowing when it was supposed to. It was too warm. Globally, it's changing, and it's changing more at the poles than it is in the temperate regions. It's happening. Here in the Midwest, we are likely to have hotter summers on a regular basis. We are likely to have dry periods. So heat and drought is going to be more common. Not every year, not all the time. We're still going to have mild summers. It happens. But it's more likely to be hotter and drier. And we're more likely to have milder winters, like the one we've just experienced. And it's likely to be wetter. Well, that could be okay. But we're also more likely to have really heavy, strong storms. We're more likely to get those gully washers now than in the past. There's more energy in the system. The total atmosphere has more heat energy. The oceans have more heat energy in it. That creates more energetic storms that carries water further. It moves it out of places where there used to be water. So the distribution of water on the planet is changing dramatically. Here in the Midwest, they're predicting more heavy downpours. We need to be ready for floods. And sudden flash floods, too. So we're expecting drought. So not just floods, but drought. Sounds like a contradiction, but it's the extremes of climate change that we are expected to endure. Warmer temperatures in general mean more faster evaporation rates, warmer summers, more likely to have shortages in the Midwest. That's in our region here. This is a prediction for us. More flash floody storms, more drought. I think this is a picture of Memphis, recent flood. This is like a 100-year flood or a 500-year flood in Memphis. But they've never had a 100-year flood or a 500-year flood like this. So an extreme flooding event that takes out infrastructure is more likely to happen. And we know St. Louis in '93, I think it was, had a terrible flood. And throughout the Mississippi, a great deal of damage was done. this is going to be more common than ever before. And I'm sure you've heard this in the news lately. We're getting algae blooms in Lake Erie. And most famously, that Toledo lost its water supply for a couple of days. It is a serious issue, not just in Lake Erie, but also in the Ohio River and other places. We're getting toxic algae blooms. It's poison. Our water is poisoned. And we know why that is happening. We have more nutrients in the water than ever before. That's going to continue to happen when we have these flashy storms. So you get a heavy storm, it's going to wash it off into the water, takes downstream and goes into the lake and feeds the algae. So these weather events are going to encourage the algae. Plus, we have a longer growing season. The lake's going to get warmer. Warmer temperatures favor the algae. So the runoff and the nutrients combined, this is going to happen more and more often. This is the new normal. These kinds of events also cause erosion. Erosion, of course, you get a flashy storm, it's going to chip away at the stream banks and take that down with it. A lot of these nutrients are attached to the sediment particles and get carried down even further. People lose property value because what used to be a floodplain that was of some use is now being chipped away and eroded away, and they're losing land. There is a cost to this. We're also losing groundwater across the Midwest. There are people that can no longer use their wells. They have to dig a new well, drill a new well, and drill it deeper. And this diagram you can see on the left here, a normal water table under the landscape, under a relatively undeveloped landscape. But if you put a well in for dryland irrigation, you can cause this, what's called a cone of depression. You're pulling the water out faster than it can infiltrate back in, and so the water table really goes down. And what can happen is that if your neighbor has a shallower well and you dig the deeper well, you can increase that cone of depression so that you're stealing your neighbor's water and their well no longer functions. This is happening. We are taking this ancient water that's been in the ground for tens of thousands of years, and we're pumping it out, and it's just not getting replaced at the rate that we are removing it. That's an issue. Groundwater is an issue more and more. And biodiversity. A lot of people are worried about biodiversity. We're losing a lot of plants and animals. Extinction rate is increasing. That is why they're calling this the sixth great extinction. We're losing plants and animals at a rate faster than any of the past great extinctions based on fossil records. And here's just a short list of Ohio threatened or endangered birds. Just a short list here. I'm sure there's birders in here that recognize this, these birds. And in Ohio, most of the plants and animals that are listed as threatened or endangered use wetlands or depend on wetlands for part of their life. So as Kathy just said, we've lost over 90% of our wetlands. Well, chances are we've lost over 90% of those plants and animals that depend on wetlands. And so losing 90%, that's kind of threatened. That could be endangered. That could be extinct. So, anybody depressed yet? Anybody worried? Is there any hope? Are we all just going to go home and wring our hands and have a beer? I'm here to tell you there is hope. We can get out of this mess. It's not going to be easy, but it can happen. Certainly, if there's people like Protect Geauga Parks around, this can happen. There is hope, because grassroots groups rally and say, no, this is wrong, we gotta do something a little bit differently. And that's where the hope comes from. The hope comes from this room, right here. And it comes from protecting wetlands and from restoring wetlands. And I might say creating wetlands. I make a distinction there. Creating wetlands is putting a wetland where there wasn't one before. Restoring it is taking it back where there had been a wetland before. Restoring is much better than creating. Good chance there's still a seed bank there, and the native plants will come back in. So restoring is a major effort. That's where we need to go. Protect what we've got and restore what we can. And this is what it'll do for us. Protecting wetlands will take carbon dioxide out of the air. We need to do that, right? We need to reduce the level of carbon dioxide in the air. We know greenhouse gas, the most important significant greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. It's going to be in the air for a long time. It's going to be trapping heat and causing the globe to warm, and that induces the climate change. So in order to reverse that, for a long time we thought, well, we need to grow trees. Plant a tree, protect the environment, stop global warming. Well, yeah, that's true. But a tree does that for 100 years, or a couple hundred years. Not bad, not bad. A tree is a good idea. But what about wetlands? You see this picture here? I don't know if it comes out very clearly. But that is a peat mining operation. So a wetland has been drained. There's actually, right along here is kind of a cliff face. That's where they have dug down through this black, mucky peat soil. And it's been laid out on the ground back here in big slabs. And then that gets used for fuel. Okay, that's kind of a traditional way of mining the peat for fuel. But what that illustrates is that you've got several feet deep here of carbon. That's carbon. When a wetland sequesters carbon, it socks it away, virtually permanently. So a forest may take a couple hundred years and pull carbon out of the air. A good wetland will do it for millennia. You dig down in a peat bog like that, you find mastodons. How long's that been there? These things last a long time. So if you want to take carbon out of the air, keep it out of the air, you want wetlands to do that for you. That's the long game plan. That's how you do that. There is some controversy about wetlands creating methane. We know that methane is also a greenhouse gas. And yes, there's this swamp gas. There is some methane that comes out. Methane is a serious greenhouse gas, and yes, it is produced naturally. It also has a very short shelf life. So it'll get up in the atmosphere. It decomposes pretty quickly. It's not nearly as serious as carbon dioxide. So the bottom line is wetlands are going to reverse global warming. The net gain, or the net loss of greenhouse gases is best by wetland restoration. Okay, what about drought? What do you do when you have a drought? What if you have a long-term drought, like places in the West, in California? Year after year after year after year, you have drought. Well, here's one of our best allies right here. Beavers were virtually extirpated from Ohio. They are coming back, and there's a lot of people that still don't like them because there's a lot invested in having dry land instead of wetlands. But if you want wetlands, if you want to counteract the effects of drought, beavers are very cost effective. In fact, there is a program that has been done in the dry mountains of the West called the Beaver Restoration Initiative. It's really very clever. They actually take these mule trains. They pack panniers on these mules, and they'll have a beaver on either side, and half of them are straw bales, and half of them are beaver. And they trek up into these dry gulches and headwaters, and they stake some bales in to these streams, and they release the beavers. The bales slow down the water so that the beaver have some immediate habitat. The beavers continue to block the water. What was previously an intermittent stream now becomes a steady, continuous river. Fish come back. Water infiltrates into the ground from that beaver-created wetland. Wells become active again because there is suddenly groundwater back on the ranch, and you can feed your livestock. Leave it to beaver. It's a pretty good plan. Very cost effective. So yeah, wetlands